How's it going? So today I kind of wanted to talk about why I think if you still can and you can afford it in this crazy economy, you should go out and buy a WRX STI before it's too late. So I've been driving Subarus for a really long time. I've had a couple WRXs, a couple Foresters, a couple Outbacks. I've had brand new Subarus. I've had really old Subarus. I just recently got rid of a 2001 Forester Sport, just a 2.5 liter. That was a 5-speed manual. I've had two Outback Wildernesses, and I liked, but I just couldn't get past the CVT nonsense with those. And a Forester Wilderness, which is the same thing. And this is my first STI. I've had two WRXs as well. And the reason that I kind of decided to buy an STI was because, well, first of all, they're discontinued. I'm really close with some people who work at Subaru of America, and I've talked to them kind of about what Subaru's plans are with the STI as a whole, whether or not they're going to release a new one or not. And most of that conversation either alludes to an STI hybrid, which some people might like. Me personally, I'm not super into the idea of that, but I'm also not anti-hybrid. Some of it has alluded to just the whole idea of another STI being completely scrapped, and that the STI name branding will just be something sold to Subaru customers that drive just the new WRX in the form of exhaust or add-ons to the vehicle, as well as other Subarus, which seems to be the more likely cause than them coming out with an STI that is just turbo, whatever, like maybe the new 2.4 liter. So my first argument, not really argument, my first reasoning for buying an STI is that more than likely this is going to be it. There's probably not going to be another STI, at least in the form of just a naturally or a turbocharged flat four. It's going to be hybrid, all electric, or something in between. My second reasoning for wanting to go out and buy an STI is obviously it is a manual transmission. It's a 6-speed manual transmission, and the manual transmission in this car, and 6 out of the 9 Subarus I've ever owned have been manual transmission. The transmission in this car is fucking, excuse my language, phenomenal. It's the best manual transmission vehicle I've ever driven. Its ratio is really, the gear ratios are really short. It's a great, like, it's just great to drive around town on the highway. It doesn't really matter, you know. I mean, it feels solid. And from what I understand about this particular 6-speed in the STI, not the WRX, because they are different, is the fact that this is supposedly for a factory or stock comparison. This transmission is bulletproof or very reliable. I have some friends who do transmission rebuilds and stuff like that, and they've told me pretty much that they've seen about 5 of these transmissions in their 10 plus years of doing transmission rebuilds, so that's pretty good. My next reasoning is that if it is true that Subaru does not come out with an STI, these vehicles are only going to get older, get more mileage, get more abuse, first of all. Second of all, they'll probably hold their value really well because they don't make them anymore. This is going to become kind of like any vehicle that is of this nature that gets discontinued, but people still want it. I bought this STI for more than it sold for new. It has 36,000 miles on it. It's a 2020. It's crazy. And I know the current state of vehicles is not great, but I can only see that getting worse as time goes on. I mean, look at obviously this isn't a great comparison, but if you look at the Type R, I believe it's the Type RA, or there's another one. I'm trying to remember the name of the other one, but either way, those ones are 50. I've seen them go for $50,000+. And granted, they're much more rare, but as time goes on, these are just going to become rare too, and so they'll probably hold their value really well. My next thing is that this is the most amazing car I've ever driven. I've driven some other stuff. I've driven a Civic Type R. I've driven a Focus RS. I've driven a Corolla, GR Corolla. And all those cars are great, but there's just something about these cars. It's still all analog and mechanical, and you feel everything, and the steering is so mechanically driven. It just feels like you're driving the car. It doesn't feel like assisted electronically by all of the stuff that a newer car has. So that is something to consider too. I mean, it really does, minus some of the more modern features, feel like you're driving a car from the 90s or early 2000s, which isn't really a bad thing because, like I said, this car is very dailyable. I mean, you can drive it in pretty much any weather condition. It'll take you anywhere. It can go up to through mountain passes. It can go on any dirt surfaces. I mean, it really is a great daily, contrary to what people say. However, I will say the one downside to it is the fact that it is pretty stiff, which might turn some people off to it, but I still think, just based on the way that it feels while you're driving it, that the stiffness is worth it. Because I've driven WRXs, and honestly, like, they're great, don't get me wrong, and they're just as dailyable, if not more dailyable, but they don't feel the same. So, something to consider. So if you're thinking about buying an STI, I think you should do it, because worst case scenario, your car will barely devalue as you own it. Best case scenario, it's going to increase in value, and also you get to drive one of the most amazing cars honestly ever made. I know a lot of people like to talk shit about reliability standards and stuff like that, but you're not buying a car like this if you can't afford to maintain it. And if you are, then I hate to break it to you, but you're making a somewhat irresponsible financial decision. So I really do think that there is a window of opportunity to buy one of these that is good, and it's pretty much right now, because like I said, as time goes on, these are just going to get more used, more abused, more mileage, and frankly, the ones that are very well taken care of are just going to get expensive. I mean, like I said, this car originally sold for about $38,000 in 2020, and I bought it for $40,000. So, and then if they don't make any more of them, and the fact that the new WRX is not very popular, you're probably gonna be all right buying one of these as far as a financial decision goes, as long as you can afford to maintain it, take good care of it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. If you're on the fence about it, go for it, because trust me, manuals are going away as a whole. Subaru only has one manual transmission vehicle that they still make, and that's the new WRX. They chopped the Crosstrek, they chopped the Impreza. There is no other manual that Subaru makes anymore other than the WRX, and I don't see that manual going away while they still make the WRX. That would probably piss a lot of people off, but as a whole, manual transmission cars are going away. Hybrids and EVs are the future, which is fine. I'm cool with it. Electric cars are fun. Hybrid cars are cool. I'm not anti that stuff. But, you know, the window of opportunity to buy a vehicle like this in good shape with lower miles is really, it's going away. So I think you should do it if you can afford it, and you will not be disappointed. Like I said, this is one of the most amazing and fun cars I've ever driven. So good luck in your decisions.